There are certain doors that are not going to be open to me anymore.
Yeah.
They've closed.
Mhm.
I'm not going to become an astronaut. Not
Yeah.
that I ever wanted that, but like
Yeah.
I just have this awareness that I've made choices in my life that have led me to where I am.
Yeah.
And what does that mean in the long run?
Well, and I want to say, like, kudos to you in exploring this question of, the dignity of aging that we go through and what those trade-offs are, right? Certain doors have closed. I'm not going to go parasailing or, you know what I mean? Or like, hang gliding or something, it's just like, that's not worth it anymore. And that's fine. Right. And I think what's hard about those conversations is recognizing the dualism, and it's both
Mm-hmm.
sad and happy. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That it's like, we're sure we're closing certain doors, but that's because we made good choices at these other things that were valuable to us along the way, or like, and hopefully there was intention there.
Today on The Weekly Parent, I'm talking with Zac Garthe, a patent attorney, startup founder, and incredibly thoughtful dad. Today, we get into the reality of raising a family while building a business, what it takes to raise capital, and how we each think about legacy, both as parents and professionals. And if you stick around for the extended version, Zac shares one of the sweetest potty training stories I've ever heard. Really, it's an incredible reminder that big transitions can also be opportunities for big connection. Let's get to it.
People who can just like so naturally hit that like comedic effect
I
are
know.
are really awesome. Yeah.
It is not a talent of mine. So
Yeah.
this is,
This would be very boring and dull.
sorry, listeners.
Yeah. We'll prepare for regret.
That's right. Well, so I wanted to start interviewing people who had topics that would be relevant for my audience, that are interested and that are parents and that are parenting. And a lot of the people in our community also have small businesses or are creators or are trying to figure out how to do that. And you have that aspect to it also. And I often find, so that was one newsletter, and I wanted to interview people. Number two, I personally have been thinking a lot about where I'm spending my time and what I'm spending my time doing and what I want to do with my time. There are certain doors that are not going to be open to me anymore.
Yeah.
They've closed.
Mhm.
I'm not going to become an astronaut.
Yeah.
Not that I ever wanted that, but like
Yeah.
I just have this awareness that I've made choices in my life that have led me to where I am.
Yeah.
And what does that mean in the long run? And so I've wanted to talk to people about that, and I thought that those conversations might be interesting too.
Yeah.
So all of that has led me to feeling like, well, I'm just going to start recording these things.
For this.
I have been for the last about a year recording weekly, just me recording and turning them into blog posts and putting them out on YouTube, and
Wow.
they get a few views, and
Yeah.
I feel like, well, maybe that's not really what I need to be doing, but I just keep doing it. I don't know. I'm still at the stage in business development, Zac, of throwing spaghetti at the wall. That's basically what this amounts to, is like, what the hell is going to stick, and I'm trying to figure it out.
I don't think that ever stops. I mean, you
Well,
might stop
probably,
using spaghetti. You might throw like, you know what I mean, some whatever other type of pasta.
right. Let's just try something else. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No,
But I
that.
was really excited today and to talk to you generally. I mean, you are doing something in business that, well, first of all, you're a dad, and I don't talk to a lot of dads, and I think that is a shortcoming. And I think that dads, like, there's a lot of talk about what moms do and all that moms shoulder, but you are as we just heard, a very involved, loving, engaged father, and that deserves to be celebrated. And what is it like to be a dad and running a business and having a full-time job, as you do, right? So I wanted to talk about that. But also, as a business, you're at a stage where, for me, in my perspective, I feel like you're a real business because you are raising capital. That's what a grown-up business looks like. And so I want to hear what that has been like. And so I can ask specific questions. I just laid out two very big, broad goals.
Oh, I love it. And thank you. I want to hit maybe a couple points too, and then we can dive deep wherever the rabbit hole leads. One, I want to say like kudos to you in exploring this question of, the dignity of aging that we go through and what those trade-offs are. Where certain doors have closed. I'm not going to go parasailing or, you know what I mean? Or like, hang gliding or something, it's just like, that's not worth it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Right. And I think what's hard about those conversations is recognizing the dualism, and it's both
Hmm.
sad and happy. right? That it's like, we're sure we're closing certain doors, but that's because we made good choices of these other things that were valuable to us along the way, or like, and hopefully there was intention there. The other piece that I want to say kudos to you about it is having that conversation now amongst your audience who are parents and are thinking about it for themselves, but also for their children, right? I didn't get that talk or that lesson as a young person. Also, I was an idiot as a young person and as an adult. And so I don't know that I would have landed, but like to be a bit more conscientious and mindful that there are certain things you can do at certain stages in your life, and enjoying and celebrating that, right? And maximizing it. So like, I think it's a great thing. It's a really excellent book I would recommend along this topic.
Tell me.
It's called Die with Zero.
Okay.
Which is a bit of a jarring title and a frictious concept. But obviously the point is, hey, utilize your life, maximize your wealth for your enjoyment and the health of your life, not just like the time that you're here. And if you optimize, then you should have spent everything by the time that it ends, because you're investing that in your happiness and your memories and the dividends that your memories pay, etc.
Yeah.
So anyway, excellent book. Highly recommend for people to kind of think through that process. So kudos to you bringing up those topics.
Thank you.
And then, yeah, happy to talk. Oh, the other piece I want to say before we're talking about like business ownership and being a dad is I think it's like should be recognized of how important moms are and how much they do carry and shoulder. And like, it's very kind of you to be like, hey, you're a dad. Like, let's celebrate that. That's cool. Thank you. But also like, I'm a dad. So there's like baseline expectation that like that doesn't need to be recognized. Just do your dad job, just
do it.
Just
Bare minimum.
Yes. Yeah. No. And like, just show up and be a fair partner and like pull your weight. And like, I remember when I used to take Cece out for walks every day when she was a little baby and we, in the stroller or the carrier, right? And like, neighbors would walk by and they'd be like, good for you, Dad, carrying your kid, right? And then then Kristen would take Cece out for a walk and just be ignored, right? And it's like, you recognize we're doing the exact same thing. Why are you praising me?
Yeah.
She had to push this child out. Come on. So there's a bit of a double standard, and I appreciate you making some space for me for that. And my ego is fragile, so like, thank you.
But you're welcome. Yeah,
yes, but
it's true. I may or may not have a partner who also feels like, look, I show up and do the things, where's my recognition, and appreciates it. So yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
And yes. And there was just an article I saw, moms still, women in the household, moms in the household are something like 71% of the sort of invisible tasks around. And I just recently talked about, I was hours away, and I still was thinking about like all the shit I needed to buy to wrap up the school year. And, I get it.
Yes. Yes. So kudos to the moms out there. I just want to say, yeah. Also kudos to Tim. Your husband is awesome.
He'll be very happy to hear that. We both recognized it.
We're making this national news.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah. Perfect.
Well, so let's talk for a second, since we're on this topic, let's talk for a second about what it's like for you as a parent and a business owner. And I imagine, again, that there's a lot of it where it's not too different, regardless of your gender, your sex, however you identify. Being a parent, having a full-time job as you do, and being a business owner, that is intense. And it is beyond full-time. How do you, like, are there things that you find yourself in particular wanting to optimize, or feeling like, I'm willing to let go of this because I just don't have the time that I did before starting Sigil? Or what is that? What does all of this look like for you, like in a day, and how do you balance it all?
Yeah, really great questions and kudos. I don't know that I balance any of it, right? You go through it. I would say that,
and balance. Let's just say balance might look very different today than it does tomorrow. I use that term loosely because there's no balance within it. The idea that you could balance in a day, I think that time frame is way too short.
Yeah, fair. Also, by the way, I apologize if I'm drinking tea here, because part of what balancing parenting with a business is Cece was sick yesterday, and so in the middle of the night she got up and she came into our bed, and so I like pulled her into the bed, and I rolled over and we're face to face, and she just coughed right in there.
Right in there.
Now I'm drinking tea, and that's okay, and we're back at work, and it's just part of the part of the sweet
Yes.
toys of it. So I think, yeah, maybe to answer your question for like a little bit of context, so everyone knows sort of like the whatever what I'm doing, where I'm at, and how
Yeah.
parenting comes in. So my background as an attorney, I have my own law firm, and then through that legal practice, developed a mechanism that would be useful as a technology product. And so I pivoted from the law firm into launching this technology company, Sigil, which you mentioned. And so now I own both of those. So I'm still a very passive, but an owner, and we meet weekly for my law firm. And then, I'm the co-founder and CEO for the tech company. And really, a lot of credit goes to my business partners for all of that and for finding that balance. So my partner at the firm, Kiyah, is amazing and has done a wonderful job managing, keeping things under control during this transition. My co-founders and leadership team, and really the whole team over here at Sigil, also, right? They understand that switch and what's happened, and we all support. So and like support structure, super important. My co-founders have kids the same age, so we all kind of know what we're going through at the same time. So that is a big piece to it. And then the same thing is on the home front, right? Like I couldn't ask for a better partner at home. She's, my wife's amazing, and also is aware of all this stuff. So like, for example, last night, a friend reached out and said, "Hey, we've got this event. Somebody dropped out. I need someone to fill in for this, speaker thing. So can you help out?" Right. So then I had to rearrange with Kristen so that I could go help, this person here. And it's, she picked up that slack for me, which I appreciate. Right. And so there's that, like, maybe I guess the first point I think I'm coming to in speaking this out is I rely a lot on other people to help make this happen. And I think that's probably true for a lot of people. I would love to be able to tell this like narrative, my fragile little ego. I do all
me.
things.
Yeah.
There we go. A little
Yeah.
flip.
That's right.
Yeah, but that's not true. So I think a lot of it is support structures, which really helps.
Yeah. Have you always had the same team, or has that been a process? Because you can get great people right out of the gate, and you can also find yourself surrounded by people who it's not a good fit, or they're not pulling their weight, or it's just not going to work out, and that is exhausting.
Oh, that
Needing to make those changes.
really draining. Yeah, that's for sure. I've been very fortunate in that the people that have been around and that have come to work with me, have been of such high caliber, which has been amazing. So that is a bullet I've largely dodged so far.
Yeah.
But that's worth acknowledging. I have good friends who have been caught up in those founder disputes and those challenges, and it's extremely draining and and toxic there. So or same on the home front, right? Where
Yeah.
maybe
Right,
your
of course.
business stuff is supported, but you've got home challenges. Yeah, for sure. That's and so I wish I had some sort of guidance or advice on it, but I've gotten
No,
lucky.
I mean, you've been lucky, and or really thoughtful. Do you think that there's some, no? Okay. So I was going to ask, is there something you did? I've read various books about the importance of creating culture, and Kazingo has not grown to a point where that is something that I need to really worry about. I guess I read them preparing for it to become huge,
Smart.
because I
Yeah, yeah.
would need to think about how do I create a culture within our company.
You'll get there.
So, but there wasn't something specific that you did. You don't.
I don't know. What I'll say is, like, I got this really thoughtful thank you card from one of our team members. So one of our team members here at Sigil, she has recently decided to leave, which we fully support her on. She's going to get her PhD, and we're very proud of her. I mean, we knew that early on, but, so we've been really encouraging and supportive of it. But she wrote this thank you card, which is really sweet. And there's this one line in here that really struck me. I was really grateful for. So I'm gonna take this chance to share. She said, "Thank you for dreaming up a space where weird, smart, kind people can all work together and be their full selves every day." And I really appreciate that. So I don't know that there's anything I like having a strong culture where people can show up and speak up and speak out has always been really important to me. So I come from the nerd culture, and grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons, right? And so like creating safe space for the weird and interesting has been important. I think that has been valuable, right? Obviously it was valuable to my team member, and I think that allows us to work well all together.
Yeah.
But I don't want to like take credit for that. I think all of my team members participate in building that culture as much as I do, right? And that's
Yeah.
one of the things that we try to be mindful of in our early hires is we had a long conversation at early hires. It was like, hey, if you come in and join this company, you are going to be part of defining what this culture is going to look like. And for some people that was attractive, and for others that was off-putting.
Yeah. So it's a combination, I would say, of you being you and being thoughtful, but not prescriptive. It's not like you came in and handed everybody a rule book or a guidebook and was like,
Right.
this is how we are going to behave.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's more like a Ouija board, or it's like we're going to feel this out together, guys, and find out culture.
Does this feel right? No, I
Yeah.
don't think so.
Well, push that back. All right. Yeah.
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 So most of your time is spent with Sigil then?
It is.
And attorney. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's been that has been the kind of the transition as we took on funding, right? There's sort of ethical obligations to be full in on that, right?
Yeah.
And so, given that I still have clients at the firm, there are also ethical obligations for me to be available and attentive to those. So, look, that has led to some long weekends and late nights because I'm double booked, right? I owe obligations to both parties, and so I have to find the time to do it. That's hard. I'm fortunate that I only have one child in that regard. I think it would be a lot harder to pull some of that off if I were still stretched as thin as, my friends who have multiple children. But yeah, that has been sort of the transition that we've moved over to. It's made it a little bit better.
And I don't know how to ask this question, really. I've never gone through it. I don't know
Makes
how to ask
sense.
it. What is it like bringing on funders? Again, in my mind, that is the dream. You are at a point where you can't grow, you can't be all that your company can be with the money that you have, and you need that kind of outside funding. And that means that you are growing and going places. And I also suspect that comes with a lot of pressure, or it can.
Yeah.
And I imagine just the like going through the process of raising the funding itself is also stressful.
Oh, very much.
What is this like? I mean, again, I don't even know what specific questions to ask about it, except how does that go? Like, how do you even know what you need to do?
It is a wild ride. And I say that because I did so much to try to learn and figure it out, right? Like you, reading a lot of books, thinking about it proactively, trying to get prepared for that. Like for me, this is very much like my time and opportunity. I'm investing a lot of my time into doing this, right? And in the spirit of your early reference, like, hey, I'm closing certain doors, aging into this, right? The opportunity cost of making this choice is very high. And so I'm trying really hard to make that successful and learning and doing all the prep I can ahead of time. And I mean, I could talk in so many different directions. I'm going to start sharing some things and you just cut me off or like take this down a thread, right? Like, millennial attorney, I'm going to talk nonstop. So one thing I've learned, I guess, is there is that fundamental mismatch between the investor's interest and the founder's interest in that opportunity cost and that time trade-off, right? So I'm all in on this. This is my big shot, right? For investors, they have several different shots at play, right? And that's part of by design. So they might not necessarily be as committed or into it, right? And they have different incentives to get certain returns versus what I have my incentives on to get certain returns. So finding alignment in your investors and with what you're trying to do, is a really, really important part of that. I would say, I guess like this is one fool's opinion, right? Like take it as a grain of salt, for everybody. And also that it's like everyone's experience with fundraising is going to be wildly different depending on the macroeconomic events and circumstances. So had we raised funding a few years earlier, wildly different financing circumstance and availability. Raising funding now, right? It's a whole different world. So there are benchline metrics and expectations, but they change depending on the setting. And so companies that, like our numbers and metrics right now are excellent and far superior to many of the benchmark metrics that you would have seen a few years ago. But we are not getting the same valuations now because just the market economics are so different. right? So there's a lot of, every journey and story is very much unique to the time and circumstance at play. But I will say, like, having great investors who are aligned with what you're trying to do and understand your business and your goals is like foundational. I would take that over the economics of the investment any day, right? I would give them a better price if we're more aligned than I would like try to get, nickel and dime to get the best valuation price I can. But it's, an investor who's not going to be happy working with me or not going to back the deal.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Because part of that expectation is that they are participating in some way. There's an understanding about how they are contributing, no matter how big or small.
It depends.
Beyond financial. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you want, right? As a business owner and out of your relationships with your investors in that sense. And I would say it can be that, but doesn't have to be that.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the Fermi analysis? Kind of like it's like it's the name for like back of the napkin math, right? It'd be like thinking out like back of the napkin, right? The majority of companies, if you're trying to take a company and make it go public, right? Companies don't go public for like 11 or 14 years, right? It's there's a much longer time horizon than people realize. Like everyone hears like about the overnight success story, right? I feel like it was Slack maybe went from like 1 million to like 100 million in like a year or two. And they're like, what an overnight success. Well, they started 8 years earlier.
Right.
Like those types of stories. When you bring on investors, especially if you're going for that type of long-term outcome, this is a business partner, right? I don't know how long the average marriage lasts, but having a business relationship to go, 11 to 14 years, like that's someone that you're going to be working with for a long time. So you want to make sure you get along. You trust each other, right? You have each other's back because there are ups and downs. And believe me, there are downs. Like when it's easy to get along when there's ups. When sales are coming in and you're growing, it's easy to get along. It's like when you hit problems, that's when kind of the rubber hits the road. So having good people you can work with and trust in that is great.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not so much that they're involved in some specific way, other than maybe the kinds of pressures or expectations they are putting on you through this process and this relationship, the length of your relationship with them.
Yeah, and it can be. I'll tell you what. Like now, lately, there's a lot more. There's sort of a trend a little bit more towards the early stage investors being a bit more involved because they have certain realms of expertise that founding teams might not have. We chose to add, in addition to so we have our investors and we have a board with board observers. We also have a board of advisors for people who have certain skill sets or expertise who can meet with me and help guide us to that, to what we need to do. And there's, equity involved in that, right? So incentives are aligned. And, that way we can have that intentional decision together and say, yeah, like I'm going to lean on you for this, right? Or yeah, you're getting a bonus in your investment out of this because you're going to be able to have this input on XYZ, right? To help grow that. So, yeah, it really depends on what you need, what you're looking for. There's a lot of nuance to it.
Did your experience with this and understanding and kind of thinking through and being able to answer these questions for yourself and for the company about what it is that you need? Did that come? I know you worked with a startup or like a ramp program, an accelerator for a while. Mm-hmm. So did that come through this, or is it?
No, I would say this is like hard-earned, painful knowledge. Okay. Right? So I failed to fundraise twice before I finally got the money in. And so through each time as you go through those iterations, right, it was like, all right, what are we missing? All right, I don't have a co-founding team. Okay, I don't have traction, right? It was just finding those gaps. And then it was understanding, okay, well, who are the types of investors I'm talking to? So venture capital investors, by and large, have a very particular mathematical analysis that they're looking for in order to make their money, right? Mm-hmm. Your company needs to be able to hit, semi-stratospheric results in order for them to deem it worthy to invest in. And, I don't want to sound jaded. There's good reason behind why they do that. That's the math of that particular type of investment. Other types of investors, including other VC investors now, might be looking for a different degree or scale of return. And so they have different metrics and expectations. So conversations look very different with those. Much less angel investors where it's, it's just humans, right? So it's all very different, all very messy. And
Yeah.
building those relationships. So, I like to go out and get a meal with my angel investors, right? And spend time to get to know them, right? Because it becomes very personal. You're giving me your personal money
Yeah.
for me to try to turn this into a return for some, for you. Like, so that all just, takes a lot of time and work. And were I a nicer person, right, then it would probably go a little bit easier. But it's you've got to build those relationships with people.
Yes, I know that you are a nice person, so it's a little
I,
tongue in cheek there.
I'll be
Yeah.
sending you a Venmo for that.
There you go. Good. Um, does that feel like, I mean, well, I'm going to say, for me, it would feel like work just because I am by nature an introvert. And so, and I obviously can be charming.
Yeah. Yes, of
To
course.
my own horn there.
Yeah.
And obviously could have those. So, but it would feel like work in the sense that it doesn't come naturally to me to have that kind of engagement with people. But also as a founder and CEO, that is part of your job. I imagine that is a very important part of your job.
Yes.
But does it feel like you're working when you're doing those things?
Oh yeah, it's
Okay.
quite a bit. Yeah. I mean, I'm an extrovert, and it definitely does not come naturally to me. There's so many nuances. So, like, all right. So, for example, and my coach would be furious if I didn't say this too. So, there are 3 things that a CEO is supposed to do, right? And it's to set and control the vision, to keep the right people in the right place at the right time, and don't run out of money. And so, like, that is a very much fundamental part of what the CEO is supposed to do. Is it's like one part relationship building, like one part storytelling, one part business and math, you know what I mean? Like metrics, orientation, like, and then one part, like, there's just like all these different little pieces to it. And I was bad at all of them, right? Just again, failed several times before eventually raising money. And so, like, there's I used to be super jaded about this, and now I've just had to come and understand this is part of the game. This is the human psychology around it, right? But there's a storytelling element to all of this where you're trying to get people, interested and excited, but then at the same time you want to be transparent because you're building an 11 or 14-year relationship, right? So like, I don't want to like sweep things under the rug and then them later on like not trust me when something gets uncovered, right? So threading that needle where you can be honest about like, well, like, yeah, this is all great. Here's where our problem is though. Like we do have this, but we can overcome it. And like, here's why. And just, there's so much nuance to that aspect of it. And it's exhausting. Right. And again, being mindful of who your audience is when you're pitching. If you're going to a VC, like my VC pitch deck that I have, right, is very much oriented towards here's why there's a stratospheric result in the size of this market and why we, can make so much money here. Whereas my pitch deck to an angel investor is like, here's how we've de-risked this company. And here's like our reliable metrics, how they hit against the benchmarks, and why, an investment from you is likely to return a very high return in a reasonably short timeline.
Yeah.
All right. It's like just very different approaches, and stories to it. And so, the other piece to it is it's constant rejection, right? So you're like, it's getting punched in the nose over and over and over again until you can finally like find that way. So like, no, like it is so much work.
So much work. And it feels like it. How do you keep finding individuals to get in front of?
Oh, that's a really good question, actually, too. And I'll just, let me, one last thing on the previous note, and then I'll come into that. Previous note is, while you're fundraising, you still have to run the company. So it's all that work has to go on top of the other work you're doing. And the honest reality is like, I think founders say that because we're trying to brag a little bit about like how hard we work. Dude, the reality is you can't be good at both, right? Like you can't be good at running the company and good at fundraising at the same time. You're going to fail on some of it. And so some days I just show up and I don't have it in me and I blow a pitch, right? And that sucks because you only get so many.
Yeah.
And then some days I'm so in on nailing my pitch that like I miss something with my team. Right? And that just happened. So one thing that I'm very fortunate with is my team picks up the slack here when I'm out doing this. Like we hired senior. We made the choice early on to like pay extra to get senior talent in for the team early. So we have like everyone here I can rely on. I can give very broad directions to, and they will get it done. And like that has been hugely helpful in a way that, I would like to say that I knew this, but like, this is why I did it intentionally, whatever. But like, I'm very fortunate we made that decision. It's paid off, for this bounce to it. All right. How do you find these people?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really good question. It's a really hard question because, when I came into this, I didn't have a background in relationship or connections. I remember one of my early pitches, I said to someone, this is one of the early failed rounds of fundraising. And we were raising something like $300,000, and which is an enormous sum of money. I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody about that, but I went to someone that I know, and they are known to make investments in the $1 million range, right? And said, hey, we're putting together this round, we're raising $300,000, and he cut me off. He goes, hold on. If you can't raise $300,000 from friends and family, you don't belong to be here. Like, come back to me when you're ready, right? And that was it. And I was so mad for so long, being like, who do you think you are that your friends and family can pull together 300K? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Certainly my family is not of that. And I love
mine either.
My family's amazing. I got a great family, but like, yeah, I'm the son of a teacher and a construction worker, right? Like, and we lived well, blah, 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 right? But so, what I've come to realize later is like, you do need to find ways to build out relationships and networks to pull in that kind of cash when you need it. And so it's a process, and it takes time. And the advice that people say, which I did not follow, right? Like, so the advice that people say is you got to start fundraising long before you need the money.
Yeah.
If you're doing a startup, it's like you should also be like you should start building those relationships and going to the events and networking. And yeah, when you're a parent and you're trying to start this company and you've got your job that's paying your rent for it, and someone's like, well, you've also got to go to a networking event. It's a Thursday. I know you're supposed to pick up your kid from school, but you got to go to an event. You can walk off, buddy, because it's not a realistic expectation. So, which I didn't do. And so it was hard for the first couple of years.
Yeah.
That was, maybe to one of your earlier questions we didn't really get to. It's like, are there things you have to be okay with saying no to and dropping off out of your life that you just can't get to? Yeah. There's a ton.
Yeah. So did you eventually have to say yes to the networking and no to picking up after school, or did you just slowly, did it just take longer? Maybe those two they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, it's kind of all the above.
Yeah.
It did take longer. You do eventually get to that point where you do have to make those trade-offs and go to, like last night, for example, right? It's like I went to an event instead. The other piece is I strongly recommend co-founders. I know there's differences of opinion around this. There's risk associated with your co-founders. But I could not do this without my co-founders. And they've been enormous assets. It's exponential opportunity that comes in when you bring in a co-founder, because that co-founder has their own network.
Yeah.
And those relationships. And the more, so I have 2 co-founders, right? And that means I've like tripled our relationship network that we can reach out to, and communication opportunities, et cetera, there. So finding those founders, especially like, then there's days where like my co-founders have gone to pick up my kids after school, like, because I couldn't go and get there, right? Like that is something that, you just need help, right? So maybe that's the summary of all this. You're trying to do more things than can be done in a day. So you need other people to help to get it done.
You really do need to find that help. Yeah, it's so true. I think sometimes about how differently things could have gone. Not would have, there's no guarantee, but could have gone had I not started a company when I had a full-time job. I was married and I had 3 little kids. Like for people who are in their 20s and have endless energy and nobody that they are accountable, or very few people that they are accountable to, or that if they're in their 20s and don't have kids. I mean, that's just the time for me when I was off doing other things, and I had not started a company, but I had so much time then.
All right,
to.
I have a thought on this, but I think we should explore your experience as a parent and a business owner as well, right? Like I this should not be the Zac Garthe running his mouth episode. You have much more wisdom to share. One thing I want to offer for you, though, because we've talked about that here at Sigil as well, right? Is like it is such an added challenge running a company while being a parent. There was a great article that we found from someone who, I forget the reference, I apologize, but they'd done a company in their 20s with no kids. They'd done a company in their like 30s when they had young kids, and then they'd done a company in their like 40s or 50s, right, when their kids were more grown. And what they said is that it was actually better when they had young kids because it forced them to have balance for everything that's going on. And so it forced those hard choices, and you have to be more intentional and deliberate. Like when you're young, I mean, you can go chase any rabbit hole, right? And having discipline in this type of business is really important. And so, that made it hard and a little bit wasteful. Same on the other side. It's like, all right, well, now I've got like a little bit more resources, but also I don't have the same energy that I used to have. And so it's hard to dial it in, right? There's sort of like for that person, a sweet spot. Everyone's going to have their own journey to it. But it just, so it makes that question really complicated.
No, that's a really fair point. And so my first was born. Tim and I were both, I had just finished my PhD and Tim was finishing his when our oldest was born.
Well, Brad, that's nice. Yeah, I don't have a big, really cool. Yeah, great.
Remember those smart people?
Yeah.
My gosh, I can barely string together a sentence some days. So no judgment on anybody.
Yeah.
But my point is that when after the initial 3 months of maternity leave, I went back to work, but Tim and I split time. And so I was working 4 hours in the morning and he'd go into work in the afternoon. And I was never more productive than in those 4 hours. When I had 8 hours to work and do, I'd be doing research, I'd be writing papers, I'd just be like chit-chatting and, you kind of... 4 hours, man, I worked every minute of those 4 hours and I got so much done because I knew I had limited time. So I get it. I get that point that when you have those other external constraints, it causes you to really think about what am I going to do with my time and how can I be effective there?
Yeah.
So you're right. There's a balance.
And that's how it translates to where you're at now, where you're like certain doors are closed and here I am at this circumstance. And I mean, I think you've made a lot of great choices along the way, right?
For sure.
So what was it like for you in the early days with Kazingo and, maybe how are things going now and where are you in that balance? Now that your kids are quite a bit older than my daughter. So, how is that looking?
Sometimes, I sometimes wonder if all of this, like when I'm having these conversations and I'm thinking about what this process has been like for me, I wonder if the question that I keep asking myself, which my therapist would be like, oh my God, how long do we have to talk about this? And you're still asking this question. But I feel like, do I just not want to work hard? Or like, do I bail when things get hard? Is that really what's going on for me? So here, I mean, first of all, Kazingo wouldn't be here if I didn't have kids. Like I was one of those product companies that was created because I saw a need as a parent. So that's one thing. Like maybe something else would have happened, but that sort of struck my entrepreneurial spirit, I think, is having kids and seeing that need and sort of started that. So, for better or for worse, I don't think I could have been here without becoming a parent.
The inspiration of it, right? It changes your view on a lot of things. And then you see a problem and you're like, I don't know. I mean, there's something to being a parent where you realize how much you're capable of. Mm-hmm. And so, to me, there's a piece there, be like, all right. I mean, geez, if I can potty train that monster, I can go get this thing done. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. And so when my kids were little, I did what needed to be done to get the process started. For me, the rate limiting step for me was not so much time because I would get up early or I would stay up late. I just kind of could make that happen. I am someone who I really love sleep, but I'm able to function on less of it than say Tim is. So I just kind of was able to make that work. And I was consulting at the time, so I also had flexibility there. Like I didn't have to be in an office 9 to 5, and I could just kind of I had a lot of flexibility with my schedule. So that was really key for me when the kids were young.
Because that was the thing for me at the firm, right? I control my schedule. It's a relatively high value per time unit of effort, right? I don't know. That's sort of an interesting
Yeah.
commonality.
But for me, not unlike what you just articulated, what was really limiting for me was having the financial resources to get started. And the idea of laying out even $20,000 to buy a steel tool, I was like, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean you can't raise $300,000 from your friends and family? You didn't pull that together? Well, you're not even good enough to consider. Come back
Not worthy. Thank
after.
you.
Yeah, gross. Okay.
Yeah. And I had the benefit, I guess, this is nonlinear at all in this process, but I had the benefit also of having a consulting. So I didn't have to worry about paying myself salary. So it was really just like, how do we get started with product? And like, again, the other thing that was difficult for me and sort of a rate limiting step for a while is I had no idea how to do this. I didn't have the skill to create a CAD file. I didn't know how you produce plastic manufactured products. Like I had to learn a whole new, I imagine a lot of the programming, like you understand the legality of and sort of the possibility of what your product can do. But I imagine you had to hire someone to do
I don't even know what API stands for.
oh yes, APIs. Gosh, yeah.
When we first talked about Java, I was thinking coffee.
We're going to have lots of coffee around.
Great. Yeah, it'd be awesome. Service? Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go on.
And I think the other thing that was really unfortunate for me and Kazingo in those early days is that I had enough of a unique product early on that some of those early sales came to me without me needing to try very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it certainly didn't become, what some other very uniquely designed sort of category defining products have become.
Yeah.
But it was very distinct. Our first product was very distinct, and people looking at it, they saw something different that hadn't been there before. And so I was fortunate in that sense. Those early sales came very easily, and I quickly grew internationally before having any kind of foothold in the US market.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I was growing on a distribution model or a distributor model instead of a direct to consumer or wholesale, where we may have made a little bit more money. I also, frankly, didn't know, again, not only do I not know how to manufacture products, I didn't really know how to run a business.
Yeah.
And I don't love being in there daily to make sure that we're not running out of money. So there were a lot of things that I just did not do well, but because we had a really unique product, we managed, like we are 8 years old now. No, wait a minute. It's 2025. We started selling in 2006.
Wow.
So we're almost 10 years old and still here. We're just like inching along. Our growth curve looks a little more flat than I thought it may have initially.
Well, there's still that like 11 and 14. You're almost there. You haven't even gotten there yet. This is going to be an overnight success.
Oh, we're so close to our IPO.
Yeah. This is it. You're coming around the corner. Every kid in America is going to
That's right.
in the spoon. Yeah. What's interesting, there's so many like challenges to unpack there and how different and unique it is. And this is what's interesting to me, why someone who's running a company and being a parent, every person's journey in that context is going to be so unique and different. You and I both approached our companies as like problem space experts, trying to solve something in a domain that we have no business being involved in.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
There are like lots of challenges to that, right? The capital investment for a product company, right, is so much higher than the capital investment on the software side, right? And like, so anyway, there's like those trade-offs or those different pieces to it. How do you approach like your children? How do you approach parenting your children and teaching your children about entrepreneurship and owning a business and kind of the financial education element now that you are running a company?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Someone asked me recently, or suggested that maybe I have like an evergreen kind of course to talk about, entrepreneurship and business and with kids. And I feel like my answer to that is like, I'm not sure I'm the person you want to do that. So my kids, Tim, my husband is a professor.
Yes.
At a university. Very easy, and if you ask my kids, what is dad? Dad is a professor. He teaches geography, and they can talk about it, and
Do they ever tease him? They're like, there's Google Maps now, right, Dad? We've got geography
What do we like?
solved.
Yeah, yeah, that's right, right, exactly. But if you ask them what I do, they're like, well, she sells some spoons. It's
Yeah.
just like they're not really able. They do not use the word entrepreneur with me at all,
Mm,
which is fine. Probably because I don't use that word. That's not a word I actually wear comfortably.
interesting.
I feel like an entrepreneur is someone who has multiple times started and sold businesses and they've just kind of gotten bigger. And I don't know why. I have said this before to people and they just kind of,
Well, let me ask you this.
why?
If someone called you an entrepreneur, would you feel proud or would you feel uncomfortable?
If someone said, like looking at what you do,
Yeah.
like that is what an entrepreneur is, I would feel proud. Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah.
Right? Like if I were to say to someone like, hey, I want you to meet my friend Kiyah, she's an amazing entrepreneur.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh gosh, am I? Are
Yeah.
you talking about me?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
okay. So for your kids, do you think that how do you think they would respond to seeing you having that reaction? Yeah, I am an entrepreneur, as opposed to having a reaction of like, I sell spoons.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They would feel great. They would feel great. It would feel great to them, and they would be very happy to see me responding that way. And I think if I tell them, I think that the thing is like I've sold spoons. I talk about nutrition. I bought and sold. I did buy and sell this business. I bought a preschool years ago.
So sounds like you very neatly meet the same definition of an entrepreneur that you just shared a moment ago.
Ish, Zach. I one of the things that so actually I have had this realization recently. I think Malcolm Gladwell has this idea that you need 10,000 hours in something to be an expert in it, and I feel like my 10,000 hours have been in pivoting. It's like finding something else.
You're just
Pivoting is maybe a nice way to say it. Being distracted is another way to say it.
facing shiny.
I started Kazingo, had young kids, started a company, was consulting, was right around the time also that my kids were going into a parent-teacher co-op school that has a monthly tuition. So they did not go to public school. It's a very reasonable tuition, but it also felt like a bit much for us. And I took on the role of board president, which came with 2 free tuitions, so that in sending 3 kids, we only had to pay for 1. I bought the preschool in part because it was right around the time that Alice was going in. And I could make a little bit of money doing the back end work of the business I was a little bit more familiar with. I didn't, not going to be in a classroom. But I did that in part to offset our education, childcare costs, and make a little bit of money. But all of those came with little time commitments. This idea that you're not all in on something. So I have not put all of my eggs into one basket. I was never really all in with Kazingo. I didn't say, I will forego income and I will pour my energy into this. And, that's where I feel like, would it be something different? Would it have still been challenging? Would we still have run into the knockoff issues and the price issues that we did with our biggest market, which was China? Because I hadn't figured out how to sell in the United States, or would I have had the time to figure out how to market here in a way that I didn't? Could I have figured out how to run ads, in a financially responsible way, directing to our website? Like maybe, I don't know. But I felt like I didn't have the luxury of going all in.
Yeah, and I think that's thank you, because I think that's a really honest, and appreciate you sort of sharing that experience and context. I think that's the reality for so many people, right? Good or bad, right? It just simply is. That is going to be our circumstance. And, great Parks and Rec reference here, right, is when Ron Swanson's trying to tell Leslie Knope, right, not to basically don't half-ass 2 things, whole-ass one thing.
Whole-ass
right?
one thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a wonderful and hilarious piece of advice. But for many people, in practical context, it's not available.
Yeah.
Right? And even I, who have been very aggressive at my commitment to a narrow set of things, even I've never been fully committed on it, right? I've had the law firm and Sigil and my family. Everyone has their own personal drives and interests and hobbies on top of it, like fully in on anything. And it probably makes you a better person, being a little bit more well-rounded on those
Yeah.
things.
I mean, that's the thing, and thinking about if this is my legacy, whatever this is, the body of this, I've made these choices willingly, acceptingly. Like it has allowed me to do so many different things.
How do you think about that, the legacy and the choices you've made, running a business? How do you think about that with raising your children? Do you want them to be considering your thinking through legacy and choices? Or like, is there a lesson you would impart onto them through this?
That's such a great question because even as you were saying that, I was like, well, I don't want them making decisions so that they have some particular legacy.
Pretty interesting.
Great. Yeah. You could maybe take up a third job as a therapist, Zac.
As an obnoxious question asker.
No, of course, absolutely not. I want them to be happy in the world. I want them to be excited by the work that they do. And when, all of this pivoting has been because I feel like, oh, well, maybe there's something I could contribute there. Maybe there's something I could contribute here. I am the kind of person who says yes to that.
Yeah,
I've been recovering from surgery. I have a new product idea.
there it is.
Like that's how I'm using my time.
There
It's
she
like,
is.
wait, you know what would be really
She's
helpful
back.
in recovery is
Yes.
a combination of this thing that I've been icing with and this thing that I've been icing with, and it does not exist.
Yeah.
And so let's make it.
Here we go. We can do now. You
Talk
know.
about pivoting.
Yeah, you're ready. You're ready to go into
Yeah.
the health industry.
Yeah.
Medical device company here.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, let's dive into that. Surely that doesn't have any regulation around it. That's going to be easy.
Should be easy. Yeah, that'll be a simple one. So it sounds like what I'm hearing is you want your kids to be happy, enjoying life, going for it.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
would you have that change as they become adults? So when they're in their 40s and still young, would you want them still just enjoying life? Or would you want them, I don't know, building legacy?
It's funny. I mean, even just in you asking that question, I want to be like, what do you mean legacy? What does this really mean? And I think, so my honest answer to that is I want them to I want them to feel like they are waking up every day and they are making the most of their gifts and giving those to the world in whatever way that looks like. And that they are happy in doing that. It's funny because when I am thinking about it for myself, so why would I think about it differently? But when I'm thinking about it for myself, I think to me, it means, is anybody going to know that I was here, that I did these things? Is there anything that when I am gone, people are going to be able to point to and say, that was Kiyah. This is who she was. And this is what she left on the world. This started recently for me. I don't know if there's a person like this for you, but there is a woman out in the world. Her name is Deb Eschmeyer. And she was a farmer, among many other things, and she's many other things, but she had a small farm until Michelle Obama found her and her farm. And she came on board and started running Michelle Obama's Let's Move campaign and has just changed the way Michelle Obama and her work have been out in the world.
Yeah.
And now Deb is able to work with whomever she wants. So she recently has been doing work with Jonathan Haidt, who's written this book,
Oh,
The Anxious Generation.
big fan.
Right. So it's just like name a few people and Deb really works with them. And she is a change maker and she is, really doing what in my mind are very positive things in the world. And when I went back to graduate school to study nutrition, I thought I am going to be her. She's younger than me, so she didn't exist at the time. But what she has done and the kind of impact she has been able to have, that's what I thought I was going to do.
Yeah.
But I didn't continue on as a professor. I didn't meet Michelle Obama. I did, there are lots of things I didn't do. And in part because I made other decisions. We traveled, we lived abroad. I had kids much younger than she did. I started this, I've made all of these other decisions. And so that's where it feels like my ability to be Deb Eschmeyer, that's likely closed. That door, that opportunity is gone. But I've done all these other things. And really that legacy is it's really about the people that I am in my that I bring into my orbit and whose orbit I get to be a part of and how I treat them as I get older. I really think that's really what legacy is about. And I guess I just have this idea that it needs to be it needs to be this huge sphere instead of what likely will be mine, which is a much smaller sphere.
Well,
And so,
one, I think that's a beautiful story, and thank you for sharing that with me. Two, I know Deb; she's great. She has this thing about Kiyah. She's like, there's this woman,
I was
Zac
going to
Garthe,
be her.
and yes, she was ahead of me in school, and I just wanted so much. Yeah. And anyway, I'm just kidding. But I will say you've had a much bigger impact on me and my life, and by extension, my family, my daughter, and her nutrition, and the nutrition of my nieces and nephews, for whom I have all passed on your good advice to. So you had an enormous impact on all of those lives. Much more. None of us have heard of Deb Eschmeyer. Like I've read, done this book. Obviously, I know Michelle Obama. I don't know who that person is.
That's true. It's so true. I know. It's crazy.
My co-founder Ashley has this wonderful phrase that she repeats to us often, which is, "Comparison is the thief of joy."
Yes.
Right, and this is one of those cases, right? Or another great, mental image I like is how if you let the horses of the future trample the pleasant present. And like, if you're worried about what people are going to think of you or your impact, etc., you're missing the fact that you're like, we're in a flower garden right now. Like, this is really cool here. Yeah, but seriously, kind of don't sell yourself short. You've had an amazing impact. Like, it really changed lives. And you've also, to your point, like, I've never been to Tanzania, for example. Like, you made some sweet choices along the way. So
some really cool experiences. Yeah,
really,
absolutely.
but there are a lot of people who, who's you're ruining a lot of other people's joy because they're comparing themselves to you, right? So
oh, you're kind. And on that note, it was great chatting with you, Zac.
There it is. That's right.
No, I mean, you're right. You're right. And, maybe part of it is just, it's just about me getting to have this conversation over and over to say, yeah, that's maybe a question that's worth asking, but I think that you are headed yourself. I am moving myself towards the wrong answer. And you're right. There may be lots of people out there whose lives I've impacted that I just don't know about. And I can't take my 232 Instagram followers as proof that I am or am not making an impact in people's lives,
It's just, that's not the math, right? It's like, I can't tell you how many people I have gifted Kazinga spoons to. Right. So like thank you. Right. And on their behalf, thank you. Right. It's like a super helpful tool and experience. It's helpful a lot of children. So, it's a fun journey. And also, we're still young, right? There's still a lot to be.
That's right.
But I think to your point, like I echo your wisdom here of like what you want for your kids.
You got to go.
This is great.
This was awesome.
It's so fun. Yeah. Feel better. Thank you. Let's do another call and just hang out and also be fun.
Just chat. Okay.
I'm sorry I have to jump.
No, don't apologize. I need to go ice. So there you have it.
Get out of here. Go ice. Thanks, Kat.
Bye, Zac.
See you later.
Before we wrap, I've got two final pieces of this conversation that I didn't want you to miss. First, Zac shares a warm and emotional story about potty training his daughter. It's funny and touching, and it says a lot about what it means to parent with purpose and presence. And then we dive into a question that I've personally been thinking a lot about, which is how do we talk to our kids about the work that we do? And what do we want them to take away from that? It's a thoughtful conversation that I wanted to share with you. Here it is.
As a part of this, I thought, we're getting two things. One, we're getting a lot of interest in some of these articles. People are clicking on it, and clearly, there are things that people want to know about. One of our highest clicked articles was about potty training. So I've interviewed a couple of potty training consultants because people clearly, this is something they have questions about.
I remember my potty training experience, like we can talk about it. It was one of the most emotional and it's one of my favorite memories. I will always cherish my potty training memories with Cici.
Oh my gosh. I need to hear that story. But the conversation I had yesterday with this woman was about it is such an emotionally charged time for parents, especially. And she said, besides feeding, it's one of the first times that you are as a parent needing to navigate something with your child. You are not totally in control and they are not totally in control. And you have to come together as a team and kind of figure this out. And I hadn't really thought about that before, but it's so true.
Man. Yeah, there are too many elements of parenting, I feel like it just like it gets bigger and bigger where you're like, all right,
sure.
I can't control this
Yeah.
piece to it anymore. Yeah. Great.
But why was it emotional for you, potty training?
Oh, all right. I guess we're going right in for it. We're jumping into it. Awesome. So for the potty, we chose to do the the 1 weekend potty training, like crash course, and there's the book, which I'm blanking on memory now, whatever, but it's like, it's like 1, 2, 3 potty training or something. You like potty train the kid in 3 days. And we had planned to do that over the weekend, took Friday off. So we'd have the full 3 days, right? And there's the whole, the ceremony, you take all the diapers and you throw them away and she helps you with it and the whole thing, right? And you tell her what we're going to do and all this. And then, the day before, my wife is like, hey, my friends are going on this trip. I'd like to go on this trip. I was like, yeah, great. I mean, how often does this kind of happen? Like, you got to go. I get it. You got to go.
Also, it's potty training. How hard could it be?
This will be easy. It'll be no problem. Yeah, exactly.
I read a book about it. We're going to be fine.
I'm an expert. I'm just going to mansplain this to her and she'll get it. And then she'll be potty trained. It's that, yeah. So she took off for the weekend and Cece, my daughter, and I did the potty training. And honestly, it was, I was very fortunate, right? Like we had very few accidents and we had a blast because the whole thing is you're there in it, right? You're like attentive to her, no phone, no like TV or whatever. It's like you're playing together because you've got to be there to guide her to the bathroom when something happens, right? And so, it was such an intense weekend. It's exhausting, right? Because you're 18 hours on of just like playing with your kid and getting food. But it was like we connected so deeply during that time, right? And the joy for her of figuring this out and like you said, where you're figuring it out together, right? You're a team in it together, right? And her having that accomplishment was amazing. Dang it, I'm getting emotional.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So then at the end of it, I remember it was like Sunday afternoon and I go to put her down for a nap and I, normally changing diapers and all this, and it hit me, right? Like, I'm never going to change.
Never going to change her diaper
Change
again.
your diaper again.
Yeah.
She's now at that next level. And she almost looked proud sleeping there, and that moment was just,
Oh my gosh.
picture it.
That is so beautiful.
It's special. So.
Really special thing that you had with her. And that it was just the two of you. I mean, of course, great if the three of you had shared it, but it's really a thing that you have with her.
Yeah, she and I have. I mean, she doesn't have that memory, but
all the time. No,
I can't wait for her wedding, for every graduation, right?
Graduation,
yes, all, and we'll get much more detailed in those storytelling.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, that was a great retelling. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks for making me cry in your podcast.
Took
you that many minutes.
I think this is off to a bang up start. They're new for me. I never thought that I had a voice that I liked listening to until I started listening to my own voice through headphones and through a fancy microphone. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. That sounds okay.
I'm professional. Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, I still hate my voice, mostly because with a twin brother who has the same voice, I've had him yelling at me my entire life. So it's I don't need to hear, anything.
You hear it.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's funny. Do people tell you that you sound alike?
Dude, yes, you would not know. If you called my phone and he picked up, you'd be like,
hey, Zach, how's it going? Yeah, right into the conversation.
Exactly. And then he'd talk about medicine, probably since he's a doctor. And he'd be like, this is weird. I know Zach knew so much about CPR.
When did you get so smart?
Yeah, no, exactly. That's how you know it wasn't me.
That's funny because so you get to hear what you sound like to other people.
I do. It's a nightmare. I also, yes. I'm constantly reminded of my inadequacy. He can pronounce words, that are like cardiovascular. And I'm like,
right.
Cool. I can barely spell the first carbs.
Well, I know none of that is true, but I get it. I also get it. I think you have a few things you can pronounce that he maybe can't.
Yeah. Protein.
How the hell are you?
Man, I'm good. This is intimidating, to be honest with you. There's a recording on right now. It's just, I'm hoping most of this gets edited out.
Totally. Be careful what you say, but yes, it will get edited out.
Yeah,
I
you're
so
control here.
I mean, you're these first rounds, except for two people that I've interviewed. Most of these are people that I know. I mean, I had one conversation with a woman I've known for a while who, I mean, she talked about some of the most personal things, and she's just like, I don't care, leave it in. We were talking about building a legacy and kind of what that means. And she's been in the process. She's written a book recently, and she's gone through a divorce and is trying to figure out like what life really means to her. And she is just so willing to get super personal. And so for that was kind of part of the point of this for her. But yeah, anything that you're like, no, okay, now we're starting, start.
Yes.
That's what I'll put in.
Get rid of
I've been tempted with some of my more personal conversations to like keep it and, oh, hey, if you pay $9, you can get access to all of my behind the scenes and, like really personal conversations. But
This is the embarrassing gossip. Is all
that's right.
here. Yeah.
But also, who knows me? Nobody. And who knows you? It's, is it really going to be fun for anybody? I feel like my conversations would be fun for people to listen to, but
We're
what do
having
I
a
know?
great time.
I know, that's right. Maybe that's all that matters.
All that
I mean, the
matters.
podcasts I enjoy the most are the ones where people laugh with each other.
Totally.
So,
Right. Part of what I enjoy about our friendship is learning so much about how to be a better parent from the things that you say. And this is one of them. Like, you want them to be happy and feeling like they're enjoying their time and their experiences and those choices.
for sure. Yeah, and even just your question, it's interesting. We're going to talk about this some other time. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to pay very close attention to when I actually do this with my kids and when I don't. You've been asking me what are the lessons you give your kids about this, or not, and how do you talk about it with them specifically? And I wonder if it's just their ages right now that they like. I don't do it in any kind of formal capacity. I'm not taking moments to be like, and here you go, kids, here's the lesson I want you to learn from this. I like to believe that they're watching. And so by just demonstrating and being, they are observing. And as they get a little older, my oldest is 16, my youngest is 12. So they have a little ways to go yet before I think they're starting to think about all of this. But I think watching the way that I have engaged the world, given what I have, the education, all of that, maybe they will come in and want to talk about it at some point when they're closer to going through that themselves. And I know that we are minutes from your next call. So,
But I do want to, or I guess I want to ask, because I kind of want to respond to this, but I want to know if you would like me to respond in a way that is a bit more supportive and comforting to what you just said, or to present maybe a contrarian perspective.
present a contrarian.
Okay, cool. I don't remember my parents at all from my teenage years. And I think a classic example of, not to be sexist, but I think many women are much more like humble and want to do a good job and just hope that they get recognized. Whereas, some of us on the other side are a little bit more like ready to ring the bell. And so, ooh, look at me. Right. I feel like it's a bit of a classic mistake to be like, I want to hope that they're paying attention.
But they're just watching me.
They're watching.
They're in the
They're
background.
learning. And they talk to each other about like how great their mom is. I bet they do that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, something, and look, this is also a bias of mine. I think about this a lot because I wish I'd gotten into a bit more of the business ownership, financial education, et cetera, sooner. Very different perspectives on how the world operates now that I've made so many mistakes for so long. And I never got that type of education in public school and did not get that type of education from my parents, even though my father, he is an entrepreneur. He's been running his own businesses for 40 years.
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Do you think if he had come to you with lessons or with very sort of direct information, or that you would have been receptive to it, or would you have needed to be in a really particular mindset for it to stick?
It's a good question. It's hard to get it right. So to my father's credit, he came to us with engineering challenges because he's a general contractor. He would have, like a project in which he got, lift the first floor, lift the roof and build a second story, right? And he'd come to us and say, hey, I'm working on this project. Do you guys want to learn how to do it and be involved? And we'd be like, no, Dad, we're playing video games. And then he'd be like, hey, I will pay you $100 if you can tell me how you would lift this beam and get it set on this thing. And we said, no, Dad, we're playing video games, right? And so I regret that. I look back on that, I'm embarrassed. That's why I remember that story. And I appreciated that he was taking that outreach and trying to get us involved. The miss there is my fault and not his. We were nerds and I was into science, and he thought we would be interested in that, right? He didn't realize that what would have been more helpful to me is to understand, like, hey, this is why, like, I chose to run a business instead of go work at a construction company, and understanding, the value of company equity and et cetera versus salary or gig work. I was craving a different type of education that I couldn't articulate, he couldn't articulate. So, like, my parents were wonderful and did a great job, but there was just a miss, right? And I own that side of that miss. So, but to your question, right? Like, so I don't know. Like, if there had been a different conversation, maybe it'd gone a different direction. And I don't know, but I didn't learn a damn thing by just trying to watch what they were doing while I was a teenager.
That's true. Fair. So fair. I hear that. And so I will take more opportunities. And you're right. Tim is one who'll be like, oh my gosh, I just had this paper published, or, all like these things that he's so great about celebrating.
Yeah.
And they know it. And they will joke about it. They will acknowledge it. Thanks for hanging out with me on The Weekly Parent. If something you heard today made you think, laugh, or feel just a little more human, don't be shy. Subscribe, text it to your BFF or group chat, or leave us a review. Remember, you'll find free tools, downloads, and whatever else I've cooked up this week in the show notes. Check those out. Parenting is messy. Let's not do it alone. See you next time.